Up front on the Voice of America in Studio 43 again with Najma and Cut, two filmmakers currently based out of New Orleans. They have a new project out, new movie. We'll be talking about that, talking about their life work. You guys have been very busy. Let's catch up a little bit. What have you been up to? And then we'll get to the movie that you're currently in Washington, D.C. to, I think, to premiere or to showcase to an audience that this past weekend.
Yeah.
Let's start off from the last time when we saw each other at Cut, which was almost 5 years ago. What have you been up to?
Well, yeah, thank you for having us, Jackson. It was really good. It's really great to see you again and just to share space with you. We appreciate it. Yeah, so it's been 5 years. I've been producing a whole lot of a range of different film content. I've been kind of moving between South Africa and the US and also in Europe as well. Been attending a whole lot of film festivals, producing a lot of new work. I still have an office in Cape Town, South Africa. So we've been out of the office. We've been producing a whole series of documentaries, a few kind of commercial, NGO, developmental adverts, production.
The ones that pay the bills.
The one that pays the bills. So doing a lot of that, a lot of paying the bill stuff.
It is necessary for you to be able to do the kind of work that you
Correct.
do. You need an income.
Exactly.
You need to pay the bills.
Exactly.
People don't understand some of the intricacies and that are involved in producing projects that you do.
Exactly.
But so you produce a certain type of film. Let's let our audience know what it is.
Yeah. So well, I'm obviously I focus on social political stuff. I'm a social political filmmaker, I guess you could say. And my focus and my inspiration is obviously Africa, the continent of Africa, and then how does Africa translate to the rest of the world, right? And I feel that my intention is very clear of like changing the image of what Africa is supposed to look like according to a Western gaze. Like this idea of like the dark continent and everyone lives in
The
huts.
world ravaged continent,
Has
disease infested.
a lion pit, in the backyard, And so
I was in Cape Town last year, by the way.
I know. And
yes, I think I reached out to you. I'm not sure when you told me you're in New Orleans. When
correct.
I can attest that you guys don't have lions and tigers in your backyards.
Yeah, and so so the intention has been very clear about like changing the image and also like my focus has been very focused on my body of work has been focused on like urban Africa. Kind of what does that look like? What does it feel like? And it's been a really interesting, exciting time to like tell a new narrative of Africa. It's quite exciting for me.
An urban Africa that is constantly going through transformation.
Correct. Constantly.
And with you have constantly your partner in crime, Najma.
What's up?
What's going on, Najma? It's good to see you.
You too. You
Yeah,
too.
how you been?
I've been great.
You guys have been working together, collaborating. When I last saw you, I guess also was 5 years ago.
Yeah, it was
Right?
about 5 years ago.
But you were part to make the big move to cross over to the continent. How did the motherland treat you?
Oh gosh, I don't know if we want to really go there. But there's
stories.
There's tons
The
of
people
stories.
need to know.
There's amazing stories, and we went as boyfriend and girlfriend, and we are now married. So like things.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So things progressed,
Yes.
and it was great.
For the best.
Yeah. So I had a great time being able to have that experience of living on the African continent. It was in Cape Town, which is a very complicated space, but I learned a lot about history and the experiences of many people there who are living in very different socioeconomic backgrounds and statuses. So that was an eye-opening experience for me.
How long were you guys there?
I was there for 2 years.
2 years.
2.5 years.
That's a good time to be able to understand the environment.
Yeah.
And currently you guys are in New Orleans. Is there a reason why you decided to move from Cape Town to New Orleans?
Well, I just wanted to come back to the U.S. when it was time to come back, and I didn't want to go back to my home state of California. I didn't really want to go back to the East Coast.
You didn't want to come back to D.C.?
Well, I wanted something new and warm, and that's New Orleans. So that's where home is for now.
How has New Orleans been so far?
New Orleans has been good. It definitely has its own vibe, own culture, learning a lot about the history there, the experiences of people there, and then just trying to make our way in and do freelance
and
filmmaking.
navigate the landscape, the filmmaking landscape there.
Exactly.
How difficult, how hard is it for you guys who are in this space creating social political content? How hard is it to be able to market it? Is there a market for social political content in the US or in Africa?
I guess there is, but I was first going to say, since we haven't seen each other in 5 years, and this film that we've made was a 5-year journey, so it's like
so then let's start with the movie. So
this whole time,
you're here you're here in Washington DC to premiere your movie to the DC audience, Not in My Neighborhood. I should say that you have a big following here in Washington DC. You went to school here at Howard University. Kurt has been coming to DC quite often to showcase his movies. I think you had a movie 2 or 3 or 4 years ago at a DC, a local festival here. The New Africa Festival, yeah. Talk to us about this project you're working on, Not in My Neighborhood.
Well, Not in My Neighborhood has been a 5-year journey, and the film tells the chronicle story of 3 cities, namely Sao Paulo, New York, and Cape Town, experiencing the detrimental effects of a colonial past, and it explores the legacy of spatial violence and how it correlates to the current discourse around gentrification. Now, obviously, gentrification as a global phenomenon at the moment. I think probably most global cities currently in the world are experiencing this kind of the discourse around what gentrification means and how people are, the lived experience of what gentrification means.
Okay. If you're just joining us, this is Up Front on the Voice of America. My name is Jackson Vunganyi. This is Kurt Odderson and Najma. They're both filmmakers based out of New Orleans, currently based out of New Orleans. Najma was based here in Washington, D.C. Kurt was in Cape Town. They moved together to Cape Town. And they're talking to us about their new project, Not in My Neighborhood. Kurt calls it a 5-year project. In this movie, you spotlight 3 cities: Sao Paulo, Cape Town, and which one? What's the title? New York. What do those 3 cities have in common?
Well, we wanted to use New York because that is what people will say, like a world-class city or something like that. And a lot of cities around the world try to model themselves after New York.
The cosmopolitan nature of...
And so it's not so much that they have one thing in common, but they're all going through something that we wanted to capture that relates to displacement, spatial violence, and forced removals. So in New York, we focus more so on spatial violence through police brutality. In Brazil, we focus on housing through people who occupy abandoned buildings in Sao Paulo. And in Cape Town,
squattering, is that what it's called? Those are the term?
It's a term that I guess like the kind of academia would kind of use that terminology, but what's happening in Brazil at the moment, I mean, to understand the historical context and also the economic, social, political situation and climate right now, you need to understand that Brazil is one of the most unequal societies in the world, right? Similarly to Cape Town, South Africa, for example.
So New York, you talked about the police brutality.
The correlation between police brutality and gentrification.
Okay, and gentrification.
And then for Cape Town, we wanted to emphasize that this isn't a new phenomenon, that this relates to something like apartheid, you know, this clearing out and demolishing people's homes and forcing them to live other places. So we wanted to say that what we call gentrification right now is not a new thing. It relates to a larger colonial history.
For most of our listeners who might not know what it is, how do you explain gentrification? How do you describe it?
I mean, it's in a very simple kind of explanation. Gentrification means when upper middle class, well-off population or demographic group move into a so-called lower income community, working class, and basically buy out the community and displace the original inhabitants of the area who've been
there historically, who own that place, yes.
Who's fought all the social ills in the community, whether it was issues around gang violence or drug addiction. When the community goes through a transformation of change, that community is no longer included into the change. So the fundamental question at hand is development for who? Change for who? And that's really what we interrogate.
That's what the movie
film.
interrogates.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, and it's also just not the people moving in, but the developers, you know, highlighting a neighborhood and saying, we can make some money here, there's abandoned buildings, let's move in and let's increase, you know, property taxes, all that thing. But we wanted to say that this film is beyond like this buzzword gentrification. It's really about people who are everyday citizens who turn into activists who protect themselves, protect their community, and hold on to their space.
My fondest memories are from here because I was a young man, so I remember most of it. The house itself was old, but it was ours. We loved it.
Hy's almal memories wat 'n man sal vergeet.
They called us one by one to convince us that we're all going to be out by the end of the month. Still today, we don't know who the owner is.
Woodstock was a very homogeneous community. New people have come in, and like yeast, they're making the bread rise.
We've been here for about 6 years now, and we've...
How do they protect themselves? How do they fight this gentrification? Or the people who are leading the fight against, I guess I hate to use the word invaders, but...
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, that's what they are.
Go
That's
ahead,
what they
yeah.
are. You know?
Well, and Brazil, I mean, they go in and they take over abandoned buildings, whether it means them having to knock them down with a sledgehammer. They go in, they bring in their own electricity, they bring in their own security, the CCT, and like over 400 families could live in a building who are working people, not people who are bums or something like that, or drug addicts or
and that's why
thieves.
when I use the word squatter, I see a little bit of
yeah.
Yeah, but also just to give context first, so the occupation and when people take over communities, take over buildings, this is a mobilized force that actually is well organized strategically, and who have thought about this in a really a logical and also
informed way.
So for example, in Brazil, there's it doesn't just happen sporadically. Occupation happens under the auspices of community mobilization and solidarity, and how intersectional collectives who work on different social issues correlate, and how they connect these struggles, whether it is about
homelessness, poverty,
gender issues, issues around unemployment, etc. So for example, we focus strongly on a collective called the MST, which is the Landless People's Movement. MST. And
that's in Sao Paulo.
That's one of the probably most radical collectives and organizations in the world, and they've managed to form collectives across Latin America, and also have formed collaborations with social movements in Africa, in Asia, etc. And what they do is basically they understand and have seen the flaws of the constitution in Brazil, and then through these flaws of the constitution that perpetuates poverty, perpetuates this legacy of inequality, etc., and marginalization, specifically around how Afro-Brazilians have been marginalized, have been taken out of the idea of benefiting from development. So for example, if you look at what happened in 2014 with the World Cup in Brazil, there was mass displacement, and it was Afro-Brazilians, it was indigenous
who were affected
people,
mostly.
indigenous people,
Right.
yeah, who's
So that's-
consistently being enforced. So you can
They're
take
basically consistently targeted for development projects, like the development of stadiums when the World Cup came in.
correct. And to connect Cape Town and to connect South Africa and Brazil, for example, is through what happened in 2010,
The
World Cup,
right?
and 2014. So while the world is celebrating this occasion, this special occasion, we don't see what happens behind the scenes. But the mass
They
displacement.
forget the people who are actually being affected negatively.
Correct.
There's tendency to celebrate and be happy
Yes,
for that
and
you're hosting the World Cup, but then
Correct. And that's again how mediocre media is produced, right? It's like showing you the glorification of capitalism, right?
Yeah.
But but the image of the masses and how the masses are being affected, that will never be shown. Because media and popular media rather is not going to show you that, right?
And there's organizations in Cape Town that mobilize around fair housing, affordable housing, that are making some progress. Trying to get affordable units in buildings, and there's also organizations that
and
we
these
follow.
are grassroots
Yes,
organizations.
most definitely. And they do a lot of mobilizing for the community and protesting and working with the government and whatnot. And then there's also groups like Cop Watch in New York that we feature in the documentary that are protecting themselves by documenting police in their community who are harassing them.
In gentrified communities.
Yes.